The private visitation room inside the Mosby Detention Center in Richmond, Virginia, held a chair much like a school desk and featured a built-in table that attached to the seat. It was built so an inmate could be handcuffed by their wrists and ankles, allowing some freedom of movement, but not enough for him or her to jump up and attack their visitor. Dr. Autumn Trent didn't like the chair. In her line of work, she knew that many of the inmates had violent tendencies, but there had to be another way to handle the situation. The chair certainly didn't look very therapeutic. If she was going to work with accused serial killer Justin Black in this room until after the conclusion of his trial, she would need to ask for a different visitation room. Since it could take anywhere from 1 to 2 years, from arrest to the beginning of a trial, they needed something better. If that was even possible. Autumn worked for Shadley and Latham, a full-service psychology consultancy that focused on threat assessment, insider threats, counterterrorism, investigative consultations, and operational training. Her company covered everything from stalkings to school shootings to workplace violence. They created criminal profiles to assist in a variety of investigations, including building profiles for cold case homicides. They identified at-risk employees for fraud and corporate espionage. When requested, they even researched radicalization techniques for the FBI. She loved it all. Autumn had always been interested in criminal justice. In fact, during her first years in college, she had majored in it. At that time, she hadn't known what she wanted to do for a living. She just knew that she was sick and tired of bad guys hurting the good guys. After an incident with a robber at gunpoint while she was in college, she discovered that the good guys and the bad guys weren't as separate and distinct as she always thought they were. It wasn't black and white. Some people on the wrong side of the law weren't all bad. There were shades of gray that weren't always easy to recognize. That incident had led her to change her major, and 8 years later, she had both her Juris Doctorate and PhD in forensic psychology, with a minor in criminal justice. Her bachelor's and master's focus had been on criminal psychology, and she loved that she had training in both methodologies. It gave her an edge that was already making her highly sought after in her field. Criminal psychologists spent most of their time focusing on determining a motive and creating a profile of the perpetrator of a crime. Forensic psychologists specialized in the aftermath of a crime. Then they'd be asked to evaluate a suspect's mental state or even offer counseling to victims and their families. Autumn hadn't wanted to settle on just one or the other. She wanted to know it all, and she'd worked her ass off getting her degrees. Her wealth of knowledge had landed her a fabulous job with a paycheck bigger than she ever imagined. She'd even been called on to work with the FBI on some special cases and had been tempted to join the bureau after helping them close a couple of intense investigations. But money had won out, and after landing a job with the prestigious Shadley and Latham, she was able to pay off her massive student loans on her more than comfortable salary in record time. And the position had enabled her to start thinking of criminal behavior on a bigger scale. Why did criminals do what they did? Was there any way to prevent it? And most importantly, how could she help? One of Autumn's specialties was threat assessment. She was the person who went into schools and businesses and determined who, if anyone, might become a threat, and what to do to both prevent that from happening and to handle the emergency if it did. That made up the majority of her work at Shadley and Latham. What she was doing now was different. She was in a detention center in order to interview Justin Black, who just happened to be the brother of her best friend, FBI Special Agent Winter Black. Winter and the FBI had asked Autumn for a special favor. Talk to Justin and try to see what made him tick. Interestingly enough, Justin's defense attorney had signed off on her being the one to do this evaluation. Maybe the attorney thought she would go soft on him since she was friends of the sister? Autumn felt the pressure from all sides, but she refused to let any of it influence her decision. Thankfully, she wouldn't be the only psychologist responsible for judging his competence for trial or providing an opinion regarding his sanity. She would also be using her finds for research.